To invest or to pay off your mortgage? This is one of the age-old financial questions that people start asking themselves when it's time to start building some real wealth in their life. And over the past 20 years, that question has been pretty easy to answer because we've had pretty low mortgage rates during that time frame, and typically you could always earn more on your investments than you could by paying off your house early. Of course, there are some other benefits to paying off your home early besides getting the bigger return, such as having peace of mind, having lower monthly expenses, and things like that. But that's not what we're talking about in today's video. What I want to talk about is it even worth it to invest when mortgage interest rates are climbing by the day? Just at the beginning of this year, interest rates were in the low threes. Fast forward to today, in the middle of March of 2022, they're hovering near 4.8% in a lot of cases and still climbing. And guess what, guys? The Fed raised the interest rate only a quarter point just a few days ago, and they announced that they have plans to raise the interest rates at least 6 more times this year, which is a very aggressive play, and I'm glad they're doing it because it's what our economy needs to sort of get back to normal. However, this is undoubtedly going to come with some consequences, and one of those consequences is it may no longer make sense to go the traditional route of pay off your home over 30 years and invest your money in the stock market for your traditional 7% average return. Because let's face it, if interest rates keep going up at this rate, they're almost 5% and the Fed only raised the rate once. If they raise it 6 more times, the rate for a 30-year fixed loan could easily be well over 6% by the end of this year. And then you have to start questioning, is it even worth it to invest anymore when I'm barely going to make that much in my return, when I could be paying off my house early instead, and that actually might be the smarter financial choice coming up at the end of 2022. Now, the majority of Americans have most of their wealth stored in the stock market. They invest in a 401k, or they have Roth IRAs, or some other form of retirement accounts that they hope to be able to draw on in the future. And even though the past few years have seen significantly higher gains than usual, the average return for the stock market has been around 7% when you average it out over the past 100 years. So that's kind of the average you can expect to get. But we have seen interest rates in the past, in the 80s, go up to as high as 15%. So if you have a house payment, let's say, and your mortgage rate is 15%, and you're only earning 7% in the stock market, it makes no sense to invest anything in the stock market. The best thing to do is to be spending every single dollar extra that you make on paying off that home early. That way you can get rid of that 15% debt. Now, I personally don't think that mortgage interest rates are going to get as high as 15% like they were back in the mid 80s, but anything is possible, guys. Nobody really thought that we'd be looking at 5% rates as early as March of 2022. So it's definitely reasonable to think that by the end of the year they could be hovering around at least 6 or 7%. And where this gets really dangerous is if, let's say, the rates go up to 6 or even 7% by the end of the year, but housing prices don't decline, they keep going up because of the severe shortage of supply, then owning a home is going to become exponentially more expensive than it was just a few years ago. And that is one of the main reasons you might be looking at paying off your home early before doing any investing, if you're one of these people who's going to be buying a home this year and potentially paying a 6 or 7% mortgage interest rate on a house that you also paid an all-time high for, higher than that house has ever sold for in the past. Now, if you are looking to buy or sell a home in 2022 and you need a real estate agent referral, just go ahead and fill out my form down in the description. I am a licensed real estate agent, and I'd be happy to set you up with an agent anywhere in the United States. For anyone who's curious, I'm shooting this video today in Normandy Isle here in Miami Beach, and it's a very nice little residential area. There's a lot of stores right over here on 71st Street and restaurants and things like that. And then along the side of the road here, they have these beautiful little coves. That's like a kind of like a little park right next to the water where I'm walking over by right now, and you'll see that in just a minute. Check out the view over here. See the boats going by. Multi-million-dollar Miami homes right over here on gorgeous Biscayne Bay. Now, it is important to note that in order to answer this question properly of should you invest or pay off the mortgage, you need to really look at your interest rate personally, what you're paying on your mortgage, and what you've been able to achieve as an investor in the past, depending on what you invest in, right? Because not everybody invests the same. Some people are more aggressive investors, other people are more cautious. But let's not talk about the stock market for a minute. Let's assume that you're a savvy investor and you can find other opportunities out there outside of the stock market, such as being a real estate investor. In this case, you might be able to find a property where you might be able to achieve a 10 or even 12, 15% return on your investment, which would be significantly better than the stock market in most years. And the benefit to that to you is even if you are paying a 6 to 7% interest rate on your primary residence, then you're still able to earn quite a bit more by being a landlord on one of these properties. Now, it is getting a lot more difficult to find a property where you could actually get that high of a return. Some of the best returns I've been seeing nowadays that I can find anywhere are between 8 and 10%, but it is still possible. You just have to look. But for the first time in a long time, this question is becoming more difficult to answer, and it's always going to be an individual question that you need to answer based on your personal financial situation. But if you are going into 2022 and you're going to be buying a home later this year, there's a really good chance you could be paying an interest rate that is 6% plus. And if that is the case, you really need to rethink your investment strategy, in my opinion, just to be on the safe side and to be in the smart position when it comes to the math, because the math doesn't make sense to invest in a 7% stock market yield when you're paying 6%, possibly even higher on your home. And don't forget, guys, the 6% you're paying on interest is just the interest that you have to pay on your home. That has nothing to do with the principal, any potential repairs, any property tax increases, nothing like that. So all of those things need to be taken into account. And obviously, those things can make owning a home very expensive very quickly. I just heard recently that about 75% of the recent home buyers regret their purchase in one way or another. And I think that has a lot to do with this video I made a while ago about more and more Americans becoming house poor. People are simply just now spending too much money on houses, and they're just afraid. They're FOMOing into the market, and they're buying something out of fear of never being able to buy again. But the consequences of that are starting to come through in people's opinions on buyer's remorse. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then go ahead and check out this one I did over here about as much as 70% of American homeowners right now feeling house poor, and I'll see you guys over there.